Welcome to the Buildup, presented by the Florida Home Builders Association. It's where policy, housing, and the future of Florida's building industry come together. Now here are your hosts, Ryan Benson and John Riddle.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Buildup, the Florida Home Builders Association podcast. I'm Ryan Benson, your host. We are broadcasting today from the Senate office building with a very special guest, Riddle. You want to handle the introduction?
I'm John Riddle with Turning Leaf Custom Homes. Yes, I'm happy the introduction today. So we are joined by our CFO, Blaise Ingoglia, and we're so happy you're here, not only because of the role that you have, very important role, but your background as a home builder. I can't tell you how happy we are to hear your story.
So, Blaise, let's start. CFO Ingoglia. Blaise is funny. Okay. Let's start with your background before politics and what you did and how you got here.
So how I got here, you're talking about in the construction industry, or how I got here getting involved in politics?
Let's start with getting into construction industry and then from there into politics.
Yeah, so actually it sort of segues into the same thing. So I started as a home builder, started a home building company in 2001 with the eye delivering an affordable home. And I started looking at all the costs in construction, and I owned a bunch of building lots. So we do spec spot building. We don't do any development. And I started getting the invoices and the trim notices from my local county. Started to see the local lots that I owned that would normally have $150 for property taxes are going up to $500 and $600. And it was just a disconnect. I said, I don't understand this. I wasn't involved in politics, really wasn't involved in policy. It was just simple. I'm a home builder trying to, do good by the community. And I said, I was always taught that property taxes were to pay for services. And then I'm like, okay, what services is a lot? So I started investigating property taxes locally and why my lot went from $150 in taxes to $600, $500, $600. And I started realizing that government was just taking the money and absolutely going wild with it. Spending money on egregious raises, just hiring people. And that's how I started getting into politics, was starting to realize that government is not our friend. Government usually puts up more obstacles on the road to prosperity than any other entity out there in the world. And what Ronald Reagan said way back when is absolutely true. Government is not the solution to our problems. Government is the problem. And that couldn't be any more apparent now in an affordability crisis, that government is creating an affordability crisis where others are trying to solve it.
And what was your first step into politics from building? What was it? Were you a rep first? Were you county first? What was the first move?
So the first move was an activist, believe it or not. I had come up with this theory. It was called the theory of the 3 A's, is that there's way too much apathy in our communities. And we needed much more activism to make change. So how do you get from apathy to activism? You stop off at the 3rd A, which was angry. So I created these PowerPoint presentations. I did an hour-long presentation, did it like very interactively with people, and I started showing people what government was doing with their money. I coined the phrase at that point, government gone wild, and that was the name of the seminars. So to make a long story short, it was super effective. Normally, when you would have a budget hearing at the local county, you'd have maybe 8 or 9 people show up. We had 888 people show up to the county commission meeting, clamoring for property tax relief. So
was this Hernando?
This was in Hernando.
Yeah.
They actually had to delay it. They had to, the first one, they had like 3 or 4 different overflow rooms. So they got the point real quick that property taxes were too high, and people were clamoring for property tax relief, and they moved it to a very large church the next meeting in the budget. So that's how I got involved. Then I put up $50,000 of my own personal money. Everyone thought I was going to run for office. They could not fathom the fact that actually just somebody cared about this issue. Put up $50,000 of my own money and ran a campaign to get the tax and spenders out of office in the 2008 election. And I did that. We got rid of the 2 big liberal tax and spenders. And then I got asked to be a county chair in Hernando County for the Republican Party. So I did that. And after a while, I eventually made it up. to vice chair of the state party. And in 2014, I absolutely lost my mind and ran for state rep and statewide party chair for the Republican Party pretty much within 90 days of each other. Wound up catching the car, became both at the same time. And that's how I really got involved. And I think that story is important because I'm grassroots. I care about people. I don't care about government. I think a lot of elected officials lose sight that an elected official is supposed to protect you from government, not be a tool of government, become part of government. And I've taken that same attitude to where I'm at today, eventually ran for Senate and got appointed by the governor to this position right now.
So before we jump into policy stuff, how did it go down with you getting appointed into the current position? So I remember we were working with you in the Senate, and then just give us some insight as to like, you just got called one day. Was there a name in the hat? Like, how did it come about?
So about a year and a half ago, maybe even 2 years ago, I was talking to the governor and I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about running for statewide office." And he immediately said, "CFO, right?" And he knew right away that these were big issues that I truly cared about. And I said, "Yep." I said, Jimmy Petronas obviously was going to turn me out and I was going to run for his position. Now, President Trump got elected. There was a lot of moving and shuffling going on. At one point, Congressman Matt Gaetz was being put up for Attorney General, so he was vacating a seat, which left that seat open. Jimmy Petronas, the CFO prior to me, wound up running for that seat, getting elected, which left a vacancy. So I told the governor I was interested, and a couple months later, I got appointed.
It's awesome.
So I got appointed to fill the rest of his term. I am up for election November 26th.
Yes, and are running. To all our listeners, support Blaise for his campaign there. Please do.
So moving more into policy that guides you now, tell our listeners about a lesson that you learned as a home builder or some of the big lessons that might have caught your eye as you were building homes that help impact how you shape your policy and your positions now.
Well, it's the old adage that red tape costs money. Right. I think people in real estate in general, whether it's real estate agents, real estate brokers, home builders, they really understand the effects of how this policy just adds cost and adds time. And not that many people understand that time is money when it comes to this, because most of them were, carrying notes, you're paying interest on this stuff. And we are at the forefront in the sphere of supply and demand here in the state of Florida. The reason why property values went up so markedly over the last 5-6 years post-COVID, and the corresponding rise in property taxes is we had a supply and demand imbalance. We had the governor opened up the state in COVID. During COVID, everyone started moving here. We didn't have enough inventory to hold for that demand. So prices started going up. But that's a stark example of an imbalance of supply and demand, but we still have those supply and demand issues going on right now. That's why if you truly want to get affordable housing, you got to get government out of the way. Still, you can have regulations, you still have community input, but we have some jurisdictions that are just throwing up unnecessary, needless, and costly barriers to getting affordable housing online. And what people don't understand is you have these politicians, and I'm just going to say this right. I don't view myself as a politician. I view myself as like a taxpayer advocate who just happens to be elected. That's the way I view myself. But you have these politicians that will sit there and campaign on an affordable housing platform, but they're creating the problems by adding so much cost to the system or so much time to the system. And they don't view themselves as the problem. Like Reagan said, government here is the problem, not the solution. That they need to take a step back and realize what they're actually, because here's the bottom line. Bottom line, people are still going to move to the state of Florida. Last time I checked, people are still going to have babies. So the growth in the United States is going to continue to expand, and we need places for them to live. Now, what I will not look at, I'm just going to say this. I'm not a developer. I haven't developed a piece of property in my life. Being in the home building industry, I do not believe in paving over the state. Right. I don't think most people don't believe in paving over the state. We're all in this industry, and a lot of us moved from other places because we wanted to get away from concrete. We don't want to turn this place into the concrete jungle that we came from.
Right.
I mean, that's why
you're from where in New York, by the way?
Queens.
Queen, okay.
Lot of concrete. That's
Yeah, that's
the only time I ever saw grass in Queens is when I was playing golf. And moving down here, I expected to play a lot more golf so I could see a lot more green, but then I was like, there's green everywhere. I don't need golf anymore. That's just a long way of saying that I sucked in golf. But
Welcome to the club, by the way.
But having said that, nobody's advocating for us painting over the state. In fact, I have been very, very vocal. I've personally killed bills in the legislature where there would be unfettered development. I think a lot of builders agreed with us on that. But having said that, there has to be a balance. And when you have local governments creating the imbalance where you can't get anything built, then what you're doing is you're forcing prices higher and forcing real estate taxes to go higher.
Yep.
But again, they don't view themselves as a solution, but they are the problem.
And so you're going around, you're doging a lot of the counties and the
Technically
cities.
FAFOing,
FAFOing.
different.
Okay.
So for everyone who doesn't know, we have our own agency, our actually initiative that we house within my office, and it's called the Florida Agency for Fiscal Oversight, or FAFO. And what we will do is we will go around to local governments and we will tell the taxpayers exactly how much of their money is being wasted. So
They're effing around and they're finding out.
they are definitely finding it. Normally, during a press conference, they're finding out.
So who's the biggest offender that you've been to so far?
So that's a really good question. There are different offenders in different categories. So on a percentage basis, the largest percentage that we have seen so far is Nassau County. Nassau County is experiencing a lot of growth, but this just goes to show you that with extra growth has all this extra revenue coming in that they don't necessarily need to spend all the extra revenue coming in. Nassau is a deep red county. I've been very critical of what they have been doing with their money. On the largest dollar amount, Palm Beach County was 344 million. Nassau was, I want to say 53 million. Much smaller county, but big on a percentage basis. 344 million for Palm Beach County. And one of the ones that I saw that it blew my mind is the one we just did, which was the city of St. Pete, which their excessive spending number was 49 million, just shy of the $50 million. The size of the city of St. Pete, you would think that that's not that egregious. It is egregious, especially in the fact that all they did was hire bureaucrats. It was hardly, as a percentage of law enforcement, as their population went up, they were just hiring paper pushers. What really aggravates me about them specifically is that they have a bunch of infrastructure problems. They have aging sewer lines. They have roads that are falling apart. They have a lot of infrastructure needs, and now they're looking to go to the ballot and trying to raise taxes on the November 26th ballot. And the argument is we need all this money for the infrastructure. Well, if you're wasting about $50 million a year, you've had a huge pot of money, then you just chose to appropriate it to give people raises instead of hire more people, except put it what actually makes a difference of what is needed, which is the infrastructure.
So when you make the public aware of this wasteful spending, what are the next steps that these local municipalities have done or plan to do? Do they have to tell you? Do they have to check in? How does that work?
Well, the first thing that they do is absolutely 100% make excuses for all this spending. I mean, it's what they do. They do not want to be told that they were wrong. They just want an endless pot of money to do whatever they want. And that's where we come in. Now, the first thing, again, going back to the theory of the three A's, apathy to activism, you have to stop off at anger. These press conferences are designed in part to sort of like shock value, to let people know how much that they're spending so they can we're sort of forcing behavior of the local governments to be better stewards because people are now watching what they're doing. Now, they're watching anyway because of property taxes, but now we're putting a number on it, and I think that's super valuable.
And so our listeners understand too, this is an equation that you're approaching. And so this is not picking which ones you like and don't like. I mean, this is mathematical. You are actually
Ryan, what you just said. Now, granted, you are doing a podcast for the Florida Home Builders Association. You got it better than almost every media outlet in the state of Florida. They just don't get it. They're just like, hey, give me a specific line item of what you don't like. Well, like, it's not a line item.
Yeah.
It's the growth in spending, regardless of what it's being spent on. They're just spending too much money. But you're right. It's an equation. It is, and it's an equation that the state of Colorado uses. The state of Colorado says that, government cannot grow faster than inflation and population. And if it does, the Constitution says that you actually have to give it back. It's part of a taxpayer bill of rights that they put in their Constitution in 1993. So we're using that same formula and applying it to local governments. And local governments do not like what we're coming up with. We're basically saying that, look, government is growing way faster than inflation and population. You took all this extra money, you shouldn't have had it, but you did, and you spent it, and now you're crying poor.
Has there been a municipality that has passed the equation, not spending egregiously? Have you found any of those yet?
So, yes, to a degree, and I'll preface this by saying that this isn't a partisan issue, right? This is a taxation issue, because I told people at the outset, if you are a Republican county or Republican city, and you're spending like drunken sailors, we're going to call you out. And if you are a blue county or blue city, and you're being good stewards of property tax dollars, we're going to praise you, right? So the same methodology that yielded Palm Beach County wasting $344 million, City of Jacksonville wasting $199 million, and these are just one-year numbers. The city of Miami-Dade County, $302 million. I wanted to find 3 more million so I can say Miami 305, but it just didn't work out. Yielded that the city of Orlando, Blue Orlando, was relatively fiscally responsible with the number, which was only 22 million for a city size of Orlando, only wasting $22 million. It's still waste, but relative to everyone else, it was actually a pretty good number. And here's the most amazing thing.
John's from there. He's shocked right now. Shocked.
Yeah. And so we did a press conference, and we actually had some activists who were ready to heckle us, saying that, you don't know what you're talking about. And when we revealed the number, they were like, that's actually good, right? The mayor sent out a press release saying, yeah, we're good. So we try to watch every dollar that we possibly can. But the funny part about this is when we did Orange County, which wasted $189 million of your money, and Mayor Demings, who is now running for governor on a platform of what, I don't know, maybe bankrupting the state. Maybe you want to take the same idea and apply it to state government. But as soon as we criticized Mayor Demings, the Orlando Sentinel, true to form, because we predicted this, that they were going to have their big government apologists and their Sunday editorial writers were going to just attack us on the numbers, saying that we don't know what we're talking about. They were going to attack the methodology. They were going to do, which they did for 4 straight weeks. It was just nonstop. In fact, we created a video in our office called "Why Are You So Obsessed with Me?" like the song, sort of like a little TikTok, because that's all they were doing. It's like every day they were just trying to come up with something different, saying that we had no idea what we're doing. As soon as we said that the same methodology yielded that the city of Orlando, which I think the Orlando Sentinel is inside the city of Orlando, crickets. They wouldn't write the fact that they were like, yeah, CFO was here, city of Orlando, 22 million. The mayor said, yeah, we're fiscally responsible, and that was it. So you cannot attack the process if the process yields what you don't like and what you do like. But that, I think, goes to show you that our process and our methodology is true, because it's yielding different results for different jurisdictions.
So changing gears a little bit, interested in your thoughts on property taxes. And of course, a lot of discussion about getting rid of, or what does that get replaced with, so I'll throw it. I know it's not specific. You're in charge of running all the money and a variety of departments under it. But I'll say, if you were in charge, how would you approach it?
So the first thing I would say is that let's not fall into the trap that it has to be replaced. Okay, because that's making the assumption of thinking every dime that they have, and they don't. I think we're proving that through. So I think local governments, there are room to offer property tax relief at the current levels right now. They're just choosing not to do it. Now we're going to have to go to ballot in order to do that. The governor and I have proposed getting rid of property taxes on homesteaded properties altogether. Some people believe that is just unattainable. It is absolutely attainable.
It is.
Again,
an equation works
once you understand the numbers, right? So the question is that how do you go about it? There are a bunch of different proposals out there. I think a good proposal would be, if you cannot look, governments are going to be reflexive. Right, they're gonna recoil. They're gonna say we're gonna have to, lay off fire. They're gonna have to lay off police. It's just every scare tactic out of the book. The same things that we saw in the mid 2000s we're seeing right now. But you would need the votes in order to get that. So I think a way to get that done is to gradually phase out property taxes on homesteaded properties over the course of maybe 3 or 5 years. Start with a homestead exemption of maybe 250,000 and increase it 100,000 every year for 5 years. Maybe you don't get all of them. Maybe you get most of the properties in the state of Florida. That's an option that we should try. But at the end of the day, here's the problem. We have to solve this problem, is that when the original homestead exemption went on the books way back when, the $25,000 homestead exemption, the average home in the state of Florida was $75,000. So it shielded about 33%. Now, today, that's only about 9%. So even at the very least, if we went back to the original intent of the homestead and say that we are going to shield 1/3 of your home or 40% of your home from property taxation, and have it indexed every year for inflation, it would solve a lot of the problems that we're seeing right now. But going back, I mean, we can definitely phase it in over a couple of years. I don't think the legislature is going to go for that. So we're going to need the next best thing, which just shielding a lot of your a percentage of your home might be the next best thing.
Yeah. All right. And in the few moments,
let's be clear,
I
I want to get rid of them.
Right.
Yes. Could you imagine the state of Florida where we have no state income tax and no taxes on homesteaded properties? You're talking about generational wealth.
Yeah, for sure. So many of our listeners do not know that you are also an amazing poker player.
I am.
And I'm wondering if you still get time to play poker, and let our listeners know what the best you ever were ranked, or the best tournament you had, or whatnot. Because you're an amazing poker player, like world ranked, and I want to brag for you. But fill in our listeners on that.
Yeah, so
He doesn't want to play against you. He's just going to brag.
yeah, I'm just gonna, so the answer is I don't play as much as I can, especially in this. You know, my first commitment, my first love is making sure that I'm protecting this state. I do not want a New York, I work Florida, and I want to protect the taxpayers here. So I do not have the opportunity that was afforded to me, say, a couple of years ago, or 10 or 20 years ago. Let's just say that. But yeah, I mean, at one point, I think early 2007, I was ranked 121st in the world. I had a lot of final tables. I placed first in a large online tournament, second in a medium-sized tournament, and placed sixth in a televised tournament that was on TV.
Is that World Series of Poker?
No, it was a World Poker Tour.
Okay.
That was in 2007, 2008, something like that. I have close to about $500,000 in lifetime career earnings. I was wanted to
Pays better than politics.
Yeah, but here's the thing: I don't make any of that money. I give all that money away to charity.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which not that many people realize. Every time I go out and I play, whatever winnings it is, I go back and give it to a lot of nonprofits that help, like abused women and kids, crisis centers. That's where I like giving a lot of that money. Even if I don't play a tournament and I don't wind up winning, I feel guilty. So I have the same amount of money and I give it to the nonprofit also.
See, Ryan, you'd be donating to charity.
That's great. It's awesome. Yeah, good causes. All right, last question for you is an easy one. Favorite restaurant in Tallahassee, or Hernando, or both? You pick.
So that's a trick question because I don't eat out.
Oh,
I'm a gym rat. I'm a food prepper. And I have been eating literally out of boxes and tracking my macros for like the last 12 years.
Seriously?
100%. In fact, a lot of people want to do dinner and lunch meetings. I'm like, I'm going to go. I'm just going to have a coffee, which is sort of weird for them. And I'm like, I'm going to eat. Please, just eat.
I was wondering when you came to dinner with us in Lee County with my wife, and you don't eat.
I don't eat.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
so
that's interesting. All right.
Yep.
Well, we certainly appreciate you joining us. Thank you for everything. For all our listeners, follow Blaise online. Your Instagram is
Blaise Ingoglia. Facebook is Blaise Ingoglia. Twitter X handle is @GovGoneWild.
That's right. So follow Blaise. It's a great follow. It's been another awesome episode of the Buildup, and thank you so much to CFO Blaise for joining us. Appreciate you.
Thanks for being here.
Appreciate it.
And that's a wrap on this episode of The Buildup, presented by the Florida Home Builders Association. Thanks for listening.